am Shannon Theis, the Payroll Queen, and today's video we are going to take a look at Minnesota paid family and medical leave. I am recording this on December 4th, 2025. So some things may change between now and January 1st. I'm not sure, but I wanted to get this out there because it does go into effect January 1st. And there's actually still a few questions that we don't know the answers to. But what we are going to cover today is why Minnesota paid family leave matters for employers, who is covered, employer obligations, key deadlines and compliance requirements, and special considerations for single owner S Corps and other employers who do not pay into Minnesota unemployment. Disclaimer, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible with all of the information that I provide, but sometimes things change after the recording, or some things are not known at the time of recording, but every attempt has been made to present accurate information. All right, so Minnesota Paid Family and Medical Leave, or PFML, is a state mandated paid leave program that goes into effect January 1st, 2026, and it provides paid medical leave to employees, whether it's for your own serious health condition or because you're helping an immediate family member with a health condition. Which is the family leave. There's a lot of different nuances that go into what is for each different type of leave. But when I was looking at the application to go on leave, it's the same application. You just answer the questions and then it tells you what you get. And it's 12 weeks for paid family leave or 12 weeks for paid medical leave, or you can combine them, but it is a max of 20 weeks for the year, and it's administered by deed, which is the who manages the unemployment. It is what Minnesota calls their Department of Labor. Employees that work more than 50% of their hours in Minnesota and earned more than $3,700 last year. So last year is 2024. There was some questions as to what is considered last year, since this is something that is not going into effect until next year. That part was really confusing to me, because if I'm looking at a program that starts in 2026, last year to me is 2025, but the state says that's the current year. In Minnesota, S Corp owners are automatically opted out of unemployment, but every single employee who earns more than $3,700 and worked more than 50% of their hours in Minnesota are covered. And but self-employed people with a single member LLC, where they are not on a W-2 salary, are not automatically covered, but they can opt in. If you have contractors, they are not automatically covered, and you can opt in. And there are very special rules, and I'm not going to cover that because I don't think that that's going to be a really common thing that will happen. And exclusions. Employers so I can be a Minnesota employer or Minnesota-based business, but if I don't have any Minnesota employees, I don't have to set up a Minnesota paid family and medical leave account if all of my employees are working in other states and if I am not an S corp. So it has to be you you have to have W-2 employees in Minnesota that work in Minnesota in order to be covered. And it's a partial wage replacement program that covers 50 to 90% of your wages depending on income, because it does start to it's got wage caps and it has a step down basis. And benefits year start when leave is first taken. There is a loophole where if you have a baby and you were on FMLA in 2025, you can take paid leave in Minnesota for that same baby that you had in 2025. You can take paid family and medical leave for 2026. And I think that's the only major loophole that I'm aware of. So employers have to register for a paid leave employer account and designate a paid leave administrator, collect premiums. So you collect the premiums of 0.88% of taxable wages if you're considered a large employer, which is over 30 employees, or the average wage is 150% or more of the statewide average wage, which is $107,000 annually. And if you are a small employer, those notices were getting posted in the correspondence section of your Minnesota unemployment account before Thanksgiving. So they should, at the time I'm recording this, which is December 4th, 2025, all of the small employer notices should be posted. If you log into your Minnesota unemployment account, look at correspondence, and I would just search for the whole year of 2025 and not limit it to the week of Thanksgiving, because it might not show up there. I had one that was there, but it didn't show up when I limited my search. So when we looked, it was for the whole year. And a small employer is 0.66% of taxable wages. And the employer pays at least 50% of the employee's wages, and the employee share cannot be greater than 50%. So if they're a large employer, it's the employer has to pay at least 0.44%, but can pay the whole 0.88% if they so choose, or they can be any percentage in between. A small employer has to pay at least 0.33% of the employee wages and can choose to pay the full amount if they so choose, or any number in between. There is quarterly wage reporting, which I haven't seen what those reports are going to look like. However, I do know that the quarterly wage reporting is combined with the Minnesota unemployment return. So I'm hoping that we fill out the information once and we get a column that tells us what the PFML is and what the unemployment amount is. And I'm, fingers crossed, hoping that it's one payment that comes out of the employer bank accounts, and instead of it being multiple different. But that is something I do not know at this time, but I will make sure to let everybody stay updated with additional videos when I do know. And this date has already passed, but it's I would still do it if you haven't done it yet. But you have to post notices and provide a written employee notice by December 1st. So that was Monday. Today is Thursday. I would still get that done if you haven't done that already. And when this video posts, I will make sure to have a link to the notice and a sample employee notice, the poster notice, and the written employee notice. And you have to register for a family, a paid leave employer account, which is not that hard to do. I'm going to have another video where I walk you through setting up an account for somebody who does not already have a Minnesota unemployment account. And you have to designate a paid leave administrator, which my team took care of this for all of our clients. And I think it took maybe 5 minutes per client that we said that we designated the paid leave administrator for. And again, the employer has to collect the premiums and do the quarterly. Okay. So you have to register for the paid leave only account for Minnesota unemployment if you're a single owner S corp with no other employees. In Minnesota, farm employers or ag employers are not allowed to have a Minnesota unemployment account if they're of a certain size. So they will have to register for the PFML only account, which I will discuss in another video. And there's a little bit more information that we have to do when we set that up, which is, fill in the FEIN, the business info, and the first Minnesota wage date. But that's what that was I wrote this presentation before I did PFML only unemployment account. And I didn't have to provide any of that information. I just had to provide the name of the admin, the business, and the email address to set up the account. And then they got the code, and I then had to enter the two-factor authentication code in order to set it up. But it does take a little bit of time to get the full access to the paid leave account. So I have not yet been able to designate the paid leave administrator or really take a look and see if that was the only thing that we had to do with the setup, which is part of the reason that video is going to be coming later. So again, to reiterate, the 2026 rate is 0.88% of taxable wages for large employers and 0.66% of taxable wages for the small employers. The small employers will receive their notification or should have received their notification in their Minnesota unemployment portal already. And the employer has to pay 50%, and the employee can pay no more than 50%. The quarterly wage reporting with the Minnesota unemployment website, and the first premium payment is due April 30th, 2026 for quarter one. And if it's integrated with payroll and other leave, you have to track it separately from PTO, from vacation, from sick time, from FMLA, from whatever other paid time off or unpaid time off you offer your employees, the the PFML is to be tracked separately, and they allow intermittent leave in this case. So what intermittent leave is, you don't have to take all 12 weeks consecutively in order to be paid. It can be split up a couple of days here, a couple of days there. And you can use PTO to supplement paid family leave, but you cannot exceed 100% of the employee's non-PFML wages. So you can't take PTO and get more money using PTO and PFML than you would normally earn as your salary. So key deadlines, there's a poster that needs to be posted where the employees can see it. And I know from other things that I have done where there's remote workers that don't have a physical location or they work remotely from their house, posters cannot digitally be delivered. They have to physically be mailed. So I haven't seen that there's an exception to this, but know that if you have Minnesota employees and they're remote, any mandatory posted notices have to be physically delivered to them. You can't have them print them themselves, and they can't be digital. They have to be physically displayed someplace. And January 1st, the law is effective, so the payroll deductions start, and the paid leave can start January 1st, 2026. April 30th, you have to file the premium remittance and the premium return for Q1, and ongoing, there will be quarterly wage reporting until it is until there's no more PFML. So one of the things that I found was really interesting with this was that the deductions and the leave were both allowed to start on the same day. In other states that have had family or PFML start, there was a year where they collected the paid family leave but did not pay it out. So this is going to be interesting to see. And for S Corp owners, you are required to pay into PFML even if you are not opted into unemployment, and you have to pay yourself a reasonable W-2 wage in order to be covered. I'm not going to get into the S Corp owners who don't pay themselves a reasonable wage here, but that is also something that is going to be taken a look at a lot more closely. Before, it was usually just the IRS that would catch the not paying yourself a reasonable wage, but now I think this opens up to having the state figure out if you're paying yourself a reasonable wage. And the account setup is required even if you are the only employee, and you're only paying PFML contributions on salaries, not the distributions. So keep that in mind. And all of these resources and links that I use to put this presentation together are going to be listed below in the description. So I really hope that helps explain what the Minnesota Paid Family Leave is and who is required to do it, and the compliance and all of the links, and to get the sample notices and the FAQs and different things like that will be posted in the description below. If you have any questions or want some more clarity on any of the paid family leave that we discussed, leave it in a comment below, and I will be paying attention to the comments and answering them with written if I can. If not, I will record a new video and post that link as a response to your question. Thank you. Bye.